Welcome to another edition of the show. We are very happy to have with us today Vishal Sood, who's the founder at AlmaBay and a very dear friend of the company and for me as well. Vishal, welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Rajat. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to see you. It's been a while actually. We missed each other over Diwali, so
Yeah.
that was tragic. But Vishal, for the wider audience, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey thus far?
I was your batchmate in I am Ahmedabad. I think that is, I would let others know that that is how we know each other. And I started my career in Singapore in derivatives trading. And since 2007, I have been into, education sector, either in formal higher education and in a tech play. And I set up AlmaBay in 2016, but I got full time into it since 2021 when I resigned from my last role as group CEO for a company based out of North India, which was into different verticals. They were into media, they were into education, they were into health, they had hospitals, they had pharmaceutical companies, they had three universities, medical colleges, as well as four CBSE schools. So that gave me a very eclectic view of how businesses are being run, and I understood some, fundamentals which are applied across, everywhere. It is mostly about having good people as part of your team. That is what I learned over there. And October 2021, I resigned from that role, and I have been focusing full time on Alma Bay. So Alma Bay basically is about, we have two products. One is PlaceCom and second is Switch to Great. Our primary focus is to help improve employment, democratize the employment in campuses across India. Now, what happens that, top campuses like IIMs, IITs, best companies come, students are very, get all the resources, they are very well funded. But in campuses which are on remote places where not everyone is at the same level, but there are very good students over there also. But since juice must be worth the squeeze, so I don't blame HRs. It is very hard for them to travel across India, and they try to, and a lot of good people miss on great opportunities, and a lot of companies also miss out on great candidates which are present across. So what Placecom does is, that it automates the placement process. It brings the opportunities to those two students, and so virtually the entire campus placement system could be managed. And currently, it is very, very critical since the new national education policy makes it mandatory. In fact, not just mandatory, it is a very key outcome expected from any higher education institute: employability and employment. So, employment and employability of students and alumni of a particular campus, that is where we come in. We are not just into a technology play. We, of course, we provide a very state of the art, automation system, management system for the placement office and alumni office, but we also add to their managerial and secretarial bandwidth. So what I mean is that we become their extended arms. We increase the number of opportunities, we improve their mean and median salaries, so we make life easy for the stakeholders at the campus.
Super. And you were group CEO for diversified conglomerate before this. How did it even occur to you to found your startup while you were doing
Uh, I have friends like you, so I
that?
keep good company, and it was always in my head that, if look, even in that role, I was not an employee. As a CEO, you're an entrepreneur. I never thought of entrepreneurship as just to assume financial risk. Entrepreneurship is being about enterprising, creating value, and in that organization also, I never thought of myself as just an employee. I thought of myself as an entrepreneur only. And when this idea occurred to me, and my bosses were aware of this, that I have started this venture, and they were very supportive also. Although they wanted me to stay there longer, but the thing is that I was able to manage it. And over a period of time, because I was in that sector, I understood the problems being faced real time. I was on the other side of the table also. So I was not just creating products, I was using them also. So I understood the gaps, the needs. And another venture that, as you know, I run is couple of news channels like Punjab Today and Himachal Today. There also, one of the companies where I was CEO of that group was a news channel. So I realized that education and media, these are the two very important, these two could play a key sector in spreading a message about, for our youth. So that was the core, that was something very important for me. That, if I want to give the message of being courageous, being industrious, being, a patriotic, person, who believes in upliftment of the community. So if we can create that kind of, citizens, I think, everyone will benefit. We will have a more prosperous nation, a stronger nation. People will be more respectful to each other. So when as an Indian, when we are quality conscious, when we do better, so collectively we start thinking that, anything Indian we should be proud of. So, I want to spread that message. So I thought that education and media will be the two vehicles through which I can, talk about, what I believe in. And that is the
Mm.
whole idea that I chose education. And second is media, to take my journey forward as a traditional entrepreneur, how you think, who invest money and who assumes risks. But I was always an entrepreneur in my heart, even while working over there.
So this is a theme that runs across a lot of the work that you've done of being able to communicate values to the youth. You're also a published author. Tell us about your books because they're also on the same similar themes.
I think, I divide my journey, my life journey, in two parts. One part was before I became self-aware.
Mm.
All my life, even when we were studying, each term, how much we went through, how much effort has to be made. And so we filled a lot of notebooks on math, science, accounts, management, finance, whatever. But the most important subject, we don't realize that we are the most important subject. So the book writing was the derivative of when I started, taking notes about myself, that what I actually need, what are the reasons of my struggle, why I am not, why I have not been able to achieve. But a lot of people told about me that, Vishal, you have potential, but I was not able to achieve that potential. So while working in the second role, I realized that, I didn't know myself that well. And I didn't know myself
Okay.
that well because I have not focused in a very rigorous manner, in a structured manner, how we learn maths. We don't approach, our education system does not tell people about that, who they are, what are their values. By value, I don't mean moral values. I mean what you value in life. Someone value being recognized, someone values being contributing to others, someone values power, someone values material things. It's perfectly okay. You will make your own choices. But understanding your values, your needs, and there are certain universal things which are right, give contributing towards other, contributing towards your society, helping others, being, and not just these part of it, being fit, being healthy, eating right, all those things come in together, and that makes for a better life. So when I was writing this book, this switch from good to great, that it transformed me more than anyone else. I don't know how much impact it has made on the life of others, but it definitely, this the book writing process, it transformed me. So,
Mm.
the second part of my journey has been, very, very, I would say, eventful in a good way. My life was
Okay.
eventful throughout, but, post, this transition, it has been eventful, where I cherish it. I have
Mm.
become, I think, I have become a better person because of this whole writing process. And the book is again about, being courageous. I think courage is the building block of every other quality, like
So I
protons and
have a
neutrons.
bunch of questions from all of this, but let's come back to something you just said that you've become a better person since this experience, since the writing experience. How do you recognize this? How do you identify it? How do you measure? So one, I think it's very important to recognize that unless you know your own values, what you call values, and maybe somebody else would call priorities in life, you don't know what race to run. You might be running somebody else's race up until then.
Right, right.
But once you identified your priorities as Vishal Sood, right? What has improved? What has changed? And what has been the improvement in your? What has been the very obvious sort of improvement in your?
Okay. My most important improvement has been, my team, my people skills. When I
Okay.
say skills, I think I value others a lot more than what I used to. I would say I was a sarcastic, bit arrogant person, but, being better is being humble also,
Mm.
caring for others, making sacrifices for others. And so that part of my life has changed tremendously. How you measure it, I don't know. Probably the feedback of your kids, your wife, your parents, your friends, your team members. I think how they react to you, how they treat you, and how you treat
Mm.
them. I think that is one feedback. I can't quantify it. Again, fitness you can quantify if your weights remain steady, if your if your ability to lift weights or run and everything. So I constantly measure that. That part has improved. In terms of my communication, I've been more precise. I believe that one should be very precise with the choice of words, because that is the most powerful tool you have in your armor if you have to succeed
Hmm.
in life. And I have this constant, uh, I wouldn't call it a need as such, but I think it is very important for me to contribute in other success. So that
Hmm.
has basically, I don't want to sound preachy, but that has benefited me more than anyone else. I feel that it
So
has
you helping
made
others
me.
has helped you. What do you say?
I'm happier. If I say that I'm a lot happier with myself,
Hmm.
then I think that itself could be a good benchmark.
Where does this come from? Have you been at the receiving end of a lot of support from somebody else? What has inspired you to help other people?
It has been multiple factors. I feel that I'm very lucky also, because sometimes lessons are in your face and you don't learn it.
Hmm.
These lessons would have been in front of me. My father would have told me the same things. I'm sure he used to tell me, ade wali ash ya a wali ash. So like we come from a Punjabi. Ade wali ash is having fun, and a is being
Yeah.
burning, turning yourself into. So being, if you sacrifice, if you make sacrifices, if you work hard, you come out better. Like it's like a workout. It's
Hmm.
very tough to get up in the morning, go for a run, do your exercise and everything, eating right, having that discipline. So you are making sacrifices, but at the end of the day, it makes for a better life at the end of the day. When you leave, when you want to set examples for your kids. I think my kids have contributed tremendously towards making me a better person. How I argue with my wife, that changed, because I have to set examples. I won't say I never lie, I hardly ever lie, because I have to set the right examples. I take responsibility. If a mistake is made, I accept it. You know, and so I want to create good examples. I eat right because I want to tell them to stay away from bad food. I work out every day because I want them to work out. I don't, because they will learn from example. So how you treat, how you talk about your community, your nation, right? All those things, the kind of, then you have to behave that way. You can't be something else and tell your kids something else. So I often say that how much my parents told me, same learning my kids have given to me. So they made me responsible. I was a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. I was very happy by being an underperformer, by having just
Hmm.
potential. Every year in my report card, it was mentioned that even if I get 80%, 85%, these days these marks are very low, but at our time they were good enough. My principal will always write a special comment. He is not realizing his potential. He can do better.
Hmm.
And I was very happy with having potential. Setbacks are when I lost money in my previous venture. There was a day, when I had to, pay certain salaries and there was nothing in my account. And I got a message, fortunately, that, I had a pre-approved loan. And these setbacks make you humble, right?
Hmm.
And again, I say, look, you have to be accepting to certain lessons and certain true wisdoms. You have to listen to people who are wise. You have to listen to books of wisdom. If you read
Hmm.
Gita, if you read those good books which have survived the challenges of time. Their wisdom still holds true. And again, I feel there is an element of luck, because doors of change are locked from the inside. You know,
Hmm.
you just accept it that I will improve. There are people who I see who are very smart people, very intelligent people, right? And they are just not looking inwards. We are looking outwards, that what is not going wrong, right?
Hmm.
And that happens with most of the people. So I feel you have to be slightly blessed also when you start looking inward, when you start taking responsibility. So I think your question is very, very important. And a lot of time people ask me this thing about this transition, because people have seen this, that when you realized what changed. It's very
Hmm.
hard. I feel lucky about it rather than having anything. I just thought, okay, I will accept. But one thing was always there in me. I was always very courageous. Not for a single day, even in the toughest of times, I lost hope. Not for a single day. I realized that, everything is over and nothing will happen. That never occurred to me for a single moment. I think, again, courage. I think if you're brave, you will take responsibility, because courage makes you a better leader, a better father, husband, son, whatever role you play in life, better businessman. You don't blame others, you take responsibility. As I said, courage is the building block. So I think one quality that was always going, and it doesn't mean that you're born with certain courage. You can always inculcate, you can be more courageous every day.
But to be courageous itself is, in my opinion at least, is part of the privilege, is part of the luck that you have, right? The same on a different day, you may have responded differently to the same sort of setback. But
Yes.
that day, your response was a courageous response. Let's just be grateful for that. Is the way I look at it. But this is a
You
theme
know,
that's hmm,
coincidentally,
go
the
on.
same discussion I was having with my wife. My wife is my co-founder, Shelly. We were having not yesterday. In fact, today morning we went for a cup of coffee. So mornings we go for a coffee. We were just discussing that things don't go. We were discussing someone who is very close to us. That how things are going wrong for them. Things don't go wrong drastically wrong in one go.
Hmm,
First, a slight mistake is made or certain things don't go your way. How you react, whether you bring them back on track or whether because of your actions, because of your
ah,
covered eyes, I would say, if you
hmm,
respond poorly, you don't take
hmm,
responsibility, you try to put it on others, you react immaturely again because you are not taking responsibility, because you are not courageous, then things
hmm,
start going sideways. And then you develop this habit of reacting like that because you
right.
don't want to take responsibility. And I'll just share with you, recently I booked a sports car. And when I, spoke to them, they said, you just book it. And
Hmm,
you don't worry about it. Color you can choose because this car takes 8-9 months of waiting period. So you don't worry about the color. You can change it in 2 months, 2.5 months. They told me verbally. And I said, it's okay, that. Then I went for a gray color. I
hmm.
thought that it will be more subtle. I want to be style, but I don't want to be.
Sports car,
And
but
everyone was
subtle.
suggesting that sports car should be red. Everyone said the
Hmm,
same thing,
hmm,
but I thought I
hmm,
will take my time with it. And coincidentally, 2-3 days back, it's been just 20 days, and it's a non-refundable advance and everything. I did that, and 2-3 days back, I saw the color I chose at a hotel lobby. I thought I'm not liking it. My friend was
hmm,
there. He said, no, no, no. So on his face, it was clear he didn't want to be. Even it was
hmm,
clear that this is not the color we want. And then I called them yesterday, since it was weekend. Then I called them that I want to change. They said, no, your car, because we went early and everything. I said, no, you don't do that. Because you promised me. And a very senior guy from that company, he told me that a vice president level guy, sir, ये तो कई कही बात है, ये तो verbal बात है. मैं कहा, look, I don't expect something like this from person of your stature. Your word means everything. If you have said
hmm,
something, you said something. मैंने कहा, I
hmm,
never asked you to do it early because you know that one of our batchmate is a director in that company. So he probably helped, to get it in a shortened period. But the other guy said, but then I spoke to our friend and he said, okay, I will manage it. Don't no worries about it. And but the thing is that I feel very surprised now. Earlier, probably
hmm,
if I would have been that kind of person, I would not be surprised. I would say people did. But now I feel very surprised when people say something and they don't do it. You have to bear the consequences of your actions. You have to pay the bill. And if you are willing to pay the bill, you will always get better. You can't
hmm,
say that suddenly, I made some mistake, but there should be no consequences. So you should have the courage of, if you will be making mistakes. And so you should have the courage to take responsibility, accept those mistakes, and then move forward. But if you try to sidestep them, you are creating a kind of what you call a wrap in that time. If you are doing something wrong, it is going to come back and bite you, what you call karma. So it will have consequences. Things are set in motion, and it's gonna come back even in a worse form. So again, with courage, when the problem just occurs, you don't put it under the carpet. You talk about it
but
and then you solve it. You accept it. So
no,
problem
up
stays
until this
small.
point, it was all courage, but suddenly it seems like there might actually be an option that you're saying that the reason you're doing what you're doing is your fear of karma. Is that also
No, no,
true?
no.
Okay,
Fear of no, not fear of karma. I'm telling about the consequences.
okay,
And anyway, courage is not lack of fear. Courage is doing
hmm,
despite that. And you
absolutely.
should fear certain things. Certain things will have consequences if you turn a blind eye to it. If you ignore it, that I'm doing
Hmm,
something wrong, and you assume that nothing will happen, that is also not courageous thinking. That is not
hmm.
acceptance of. And if let's say you're lying to people constantly, and if you want them to believe to be the most honest person, it will not happen.
Do you bring all of this to your investment strategy?
I have not tried to. It's a very unique question because I have not tried to link it like that. But when you make investments, you have to be courageous, of course,
Hmm.
right? And but you have to be smart about it. Courageous doesn't mean that you're foolhardy. What it means
Hmm.
is that you are smart about things. You calculate, and when you are relaxed, and you make better calculations also, right? Few days back, I was at some at some panel discussion regarding entrepreneurship. When it comes to investment, you have to be a half hitman and half monk. You have
Hmm.
to take certain risk and then bit relaxed about it, and be willing to take up the consequences. If you put in
Hmm.
money, startups by definition are slightly risky, and you might lose something, and you should be acceptive of that. And if you have belief in your own capabilities, you will, as I told you, that never in my life for a moment I thought that I will not be able to recover from anything that goes wrong.
Hmm.
And that comes from having a strong, family support, also having good friends around you, right? It doesn't just come from your own skills. Success is democratic. You might
Yep.
be a genius, but without the support of mentors, without the support of right kind of investors, without the support of your family, you can't do anything. So positive interdependence, these days a lot of time people think that their genius alone will suffice. No, no. Even for oxygen we need plants. So you have to know that you have to be respectful of others, humble. That is where humility comes in, because you are nothing on your own. You can't come into this world on your own. So basically you have to be, that whatever talents you bring, but your success is hugely dependent on how others also react to it. Whether
Hmm.
so it is very important that you also contribute. Human
Super.
nature is to reciprocate. They will also reciprocate. Be humble, be genuine, be fair.
Okay. So tell us about your investments in general. What have they been like? How do you decide to make an investment? And I will eventually ask you to come to how you decided to invest with Plutus Fund.
Okay. So when again, idea and team, these are the two critical factors. They are universal truths. So the whether you feel that that person will be able to deliver. The startups where, like, I have invested in three startups now. Now, every startup that I have come across requires certain ability to handle some cognitive complexity. Because like, if I
Okay.
talk about fintech, if I talk about tech, like, someone is using AI to solve again recruitment problems. So whatever companies where I have, even media where I have invested, right? So these are we live in a very cognitively complex world. So the people should have that ability, because your IQ is given. You can have, your fluid intelligence is required in a lot of situations. So whether that person has that capability to handle those complex situations that will arise, again, the character and temperament to handle when things go down, right? How will that person react? These are the important facts. And of course, whether the idea makes sense, that you can figure out. And generally, a lot of times people come up with good ideas if they are experienced enough. I'm nothing against,
Hmm.
fresh, entrepreneurs, but a lot of times, when very young people, approach me for investment or anything, they have this very naive worldview. They
Hmm.
assume world is a multivariant problem, if not infinite, but there are a lot of variables to be handled while doing anything. They approach in a very univariant kind of approach they have. So this will not apply to the complexity of the real world.
Hmm.
So fortunately, the people that I have invested with, they have gray hair, and so
If they have hair at all.
yeah, if they have hair at all. Yeah. So the thing is that these are the factors I look at. Idea, of course, is there. Whether they are asking for right amount of funding also. They should know
Hmm.
that, solving the problem, how much money will be required. Do they have plans? At what stage,
Okay.
they are doing, and their experience. And these are the kind of things I think which apply everywhere.
Super. So I'm going to assume that some of those things were obviously in place when Plutus One came to you as well, when we discussed this. What is it about the Plutus One opportunity that excites you?
Because I'm talking to the founder, so I my words might not be as precise, but I think the opportunity that you have identified in terms of the 95% of the banks do not have the tools or managerial bandwidth to retain their clients with the wave of certain possibilities that are coming, like, let's say, utilities, insurance, so what I understood, if I have to say it in one line, that you are kind of basically bringing, on a common platform, allowing them to engage their clients more effectively, like how big banks
Absolutely.
are doing it.
Absolutely.
And once they are retained, once you have their mind space, then opportunities are of course endless. But like, most of the banks don't offer insurance, so when they go to some, so they keep on offering more things. Most of the banks don't offer micro loans, small loans, so because of, these days technology can reduce the transaction cost. And consolidation, because in this business there is economies of scale. 50% of our, bank account holders are in the smaller banks,
Hmm.
and if they try to do it individually, it is not viable. So they
Hmm.
have to consolidate. In any business where there are economies of scale, you have to come to a common platform. When things are fundamentally making sense,
Hmm.
unless you have very, very poor luck, and again, I don't believe that much, because, life is an infinite game, right? you
Hmm.
you keep on playing it every day, reiterations happen. So luck might change anytime, but fundamentally if things are strong in terms of people, idea, resources, experience, knowledge, know-how and everything, I think ultimately those bets pay off. People say that, startup is a risky game. 99% or 95% of the startups fail, and 95% of the startups that those fail, they don't have fundamentals in place. So you have to identify those fundamentals in place kind of startups.
Yeah, I was having this discussion with I think my last guest on, and they were saying how they say this about the cat, right? That so many people write it, and most people will never qualify for the cat or won't get into one of those good institutes. And but you're like, when you look at it, the people who actually are serious about the cat, they're only a handful. Out of them, the success rate is actually much higher if you change that denominator. So even for starters, when we say that 99% of them are going to fail, well, realistically, you should only have considered the top 10%, and then you would have said, okay, 10% are going to succeed. That's a much
Yes.
bigger number than the 1%.
Yes, yes. And
That's
actually,
true.
what you are saying is also true, that people are not serious. People are not willing to do the boring part of life, hard work. You know, they just again, a huge trend is there. Telling people that life is easy.
Hmm.
Acceptance of life is very important. If you accept that life is hard, suddenly you are better prepared. If you take
Hmm.
things easy, you will not go prepared. So life is very, very hard. It has been throughout our history. It has become slightly easier in certain terms, but in terms of cognitive complexity, it has become, so you have to read, you have to work hard, you have to, a lot of things have to be in place. And despite that, there will be days when there is no fault of yours. You will receive huge setbacks. You might get hurt. You might lose a loved one. How to come back out of those setbacks also? Your business deal is happening, but that guy got transferred. It happens. When you deal with government, and so many things can go wrong. But once you accept that life is like that, life is hard. Suddenly, the how you approach it becomes different. Let's say, a danger approaches you suddenly. How you will react, the kind of neurochemicals you will generate will be different. But once you are going out seeking difficulty, how your whole body composition will be very different in those scenarios.
So, as an investor in Plutus Fund, what would success mean to you? How would you define success?
Look, the kind of problem you're trying to solve, it will be, very helpful. It will improve the life. Like today in major towns, if you look at, a lot of people, their life has become easy. They're not standing in the queues in the banks, right? They're not standing in the queues in the offices. It is saving. Traffic is there. We don't see how technology has reduced the traffic. Imagine if these things are not there, the
Hmm.
kind of traffic with the same. And anyway, economy, and a lot of people cannot be taken out of poverty without this technology.
Hmm.
So now imagine the kind of clients you are trying to serve. Middle Earth, you call it, Middle India, you call it. And now those people, their time is money for them. A lot of them are in the roles where they have, if they waste a day doing this, it's a cost to them, right? It takes away, and when they ask for a day off, how they are, anyway, the boss is also not, unfair or irrational when he says, why are you taking a day off? But when
Hmm.
they do it through these technologies, they become, their chances of growth also improve,
Hmm.
right? So I think that is one side of it, that could be tremendous, because people in bigger towns, they have a huge advantage when they are focused on their careers. They these kind of things are handled very easily on the click of a button.
Hmm.
And if the people in those people who are having accounts, farmers, daily laborers, people working on a shop in smaller towns, if they start getting these benefits, it could be tremendous for the society. It will unleash a lot of their potential. Now this thing doesn't happen once. You have 4 or 5 types of bills to be paid. It those comes every month. So the productivity increase is not small.
It's
And when
fascinating that your view about Plutus's success is about the impact on society. That's fantastic. So it speaks to who you are. I think in the last question, I know that you're a big sports aficionado. You love and play cricket and you watch cricket, but I haven't seen you active in the batch group discussing the result of the World Cup final. How come?
I was telling someone that these guys are keep on talking about World Cup, I want to forget. Last night also, at least 2 people I told that, I'm really, how much I love cricket, and I'm really sad and I don't want to even discuss it. Right? What is the point? Guys played well and it's a game of cricket, and they outsmarted us. And so fair enough. Cricket is a game of strategy also. It is the only game where the conditions of the pitch, where the wind, moisture, everything matters. So a lot of variables
Absolutely.
come into
I'm
play.
just curious why you haven't participated in the group. So, are you deliberately keeping silent, or was that not worth your time?
Cricket, I was not able to even watch the match continuously. I knew what was coming. So I want to, I thought I would have been happier if you not brought it back again.
Yeah, it's an avoidance strategy, but I hope it serves you well. But thank you so much for your time. To your time in the middle of a very, very busy day for you, I'm sure.
Thank you,
So,
Rajat. It's always a
this is
pleasure.
very glad to have you on board, not just as an investor, but also as a supporter, as a very, very vocal supporter. And thank you so much for your time, Vishal.
Thank you, Rajat.